In an age of towering empires, one man would rise from the desert and completely change the course of history. He was a military genius whose strategies would topple giants and literally redraw the map of the known world. This is the story of Khalid bin Waleed. So, let's set the scene. In the 7th century, the world was pretty much a chessboard for two massive superpowers, the Sasanian Empire in the east and the Roman Empire in the west. But here's the thing. These giants were tired. They were exhausted. Centuries of just brutal, relentless war had bled them dry, and their armies were a shadow of their former selves. This created a huge power vacuum, just waiting for someone or something to step in.
And into that vacuum, a new, unified force from the Arabian Peninsula emerges. And at its head was a commander whose message to the Persian governor of Iraq wasn't a negotiation, it was a declaration of a whole new reality. That quote you see there, that's what he sent them. His name was Khalid bin Waleed, and this is where his story really takes off.
Okay, so Khalid's first big campaign under the new caliphate was against Persian-held Iraq. Now, this was the wealthiest province of the entire Sasanian Empire. And what he did there, well, it would become a masterclass in speed, in maneuver, and in psychological warfare.
The first major hurdle was the Battle of Kazima, which is often called the Battle of Chains. And here, Khalid is facing this veteran Persian general, Hormuz. And Hormuz's force wasn't just bigger, it was heavily armored. We're talking weighed down by chainmail, huge shields. It was a stark contrast to Khalid's warriors, who were lightly equipped and incredibly mobile.
This is where you see Khalid's genius shine. He figured out how to win the battle before it even started. See, he knew his army's greatest weapon was its speed. So he pulls off this brilliant feint, marching towards a place called Hufair, just to lure the Persian army out. And as the heavily armored Persians start this grueling march to meet him, Khalid has already circled back. His fresh troops now occupy the Persians' original, much more strategic position. The enemy, totally exhausted, was forced to turn around and march all the way back, their energy completely spent before a single sword was even drawn.
And this table really illustrates the core difference in strategy, right? The Arab force was built for the desert. They were lightly armed. Their infantry even rode on camels to conserve energy, so they could move with unbelievable speed. The Persians, on the other hand, were a traditional imperial army, built for those big set-piece battles. Their heavy armor? It became a death sentence in the desert heat. Their big, clunky supply train? A huge weakness. Khalid didn't just fight them, he completely broke their rules of war by turning their greatest strength, all that heavy equipment, into a fatal flaw.
And the numbers just make Khalid's strategy even more incredible. He had about 18,000 men, and he was facing a force more than double his size. I mean, a direct, head-on confrontation would have been an absolute disaster. So instead, he chose to fight on his own terms, using the terrain and his army's mobility as his deadliest weapons.
There's this fascinating story that really shows you the caliph's incredible confidence in his commanders. When Khalid asked for reinforcements, the Caliph Abu Bakr sent him a single warrior, a man named Kaka ibn Amr. And the message he sent with him was simple but so powerful. An army with such a man in its ranks can never be defeated. And it was this same man, Kaka, who at the Battle of Kazima would charge forward and save Khalid's life when he was ambushed during a duel with the Persian general.
So after this amazing string of victories that basically shattered Persian control over Iraq, a brand new crisis pops up. The Muslim armies fighting the Eastern Romans way over in Syria were in serious danger of being completely wiped out by a massive Roman force. Khalid was ordered to go reinforce them, and he had to do it immediately.
Well, the normal routes to Syria were long, and worse, they were predictable. The Romans would see him coming a mile away. So, to get that critical element of surprise, Khalid chose a path no army had ever dared to take. A direct, unmapped shortcut right through the waterless heart of the Syrian desert. His own guides warned him it was suicide.
And that journey, it was an absolute nightmare. By the third day, every drop of water was gone. In a desperate but brilliant move, Khalid had made 20 camels drink huge amounts of water before they left. Now, they were slaughtered so the army could drink the water stored in their stomachs. But then, on the 5th day, total disaster strikes. Their guide, blinded by the relentless sun and dehydration, couldn't see anymore. The entire army's survival now hinged on his memory of a single, hidden landmark.
Just when all hope seemed completely lost, the men found it. A single, solitary thorn bush, the exact landmark the guide had described from his memory. He told them, "Dig here." Desperate, near collapse, the soldiers just clawed at the sand until, miraculously, water started to seep up from the ground.
They had found the lost spring. They had survived the impossible march.
So Khalid's army emerges from the desert like ghosts, absolutely stunning the Romans and arriving just in the nick of time to unite all the scattered Muslim forces. He takes supreme command and prepares to face the full might of the Eastern Roman Empire in their first major decisive showdown.
And once again, just look at those numbers. According to the historical accounts, the united Arab army was about 32,000 strong. They were facing a disciplined, professional Roman army nearly 3 times their size, commanded by none other than the Emperor Heraclius' own brother, Theodore. The odds were just staggering.
Now, the Arab army was filled with these legendary warriors, but maybe none were more feared than Zirar ibn al-Azwar. He was famous for casting off his armor in the heat of battle, and his bare-chested charges became the symbol of the Arabs' fearless spirit. It absolutely terrified the Roman soldiers.
Facing this new kind of enemy, the Roman co-commander, a man named Vardan, decided to try treachery instead of an open battle. The plan was pretty simple, actually. Cut the head off the snake, assassinate Khalid. He would challenge Khalid to a personal duel, but hide an elite unit nearby to ambush and kill him.
But the plan fell apart before it even started. A Christian Arab who was serving with the Romans, but who had been really impressed by the character and the justice he'd seen from the Muslims, he defected, and he warned Khalid about the entire trap.
Now, Khalid, being the master strategist that he was, didn't just avoid the trap. He turned it right back on his enemy. Under the cover of night, he sent out the fearsome Zirar and 10 of his best warriors. They silently took out the hidden Roman soldiers and put on their clothes. Then Khalid went to the duel, just as planned.
So as Khalid and Vardan are fighting, Vardan gives the signal for his ambushers to attack. Can you just imagine his horror when 10 Roman-clad soldiers emerge, but instead of attacking Khalid, they just stand there? It was Zirar and his men. Realizing he was doomed, Vardan was defeated. Khalid then took his clothes and his severed head, rode towards the Roman lines, and declared who he was. The psychological shock was just immense. It shattered the Roman morale, and the battle turned into a complete rout. Let's just pause and think about that. The complete conquest of Persian Iraq, the impossible desert march, and the decisive defeat of the main Roman army in Syria. He accomplished all of that in just over a year. It was a feat of strategic brilliance that has very few parallels in all of military history. From the plains of Iraq all the way to the fields of Syria, Khalid's campaigns were just a whirlwind of victories, and every single one was against a larger, better-equipped enemy. He consistently outthought, outmaneuvered, and outfought every single general the empires could possibly throw at him. His legacy is, well, it's one of an undefeated commander. His mastery of cavalry, his incredible use of speed and surprise, and his deep understanding of enemy psychology cemented his reputation as one of the greatest military tacticians the world has ever seen. You see, Khalid's campaigns did more than just win battles. They irrevocably shifted the balance of power. They paved the way for a whole new world order to emerge from the ashes of those old, crumbling empires. And his strategies, they're still studied today. A timeless testament to a mind that saw the battlefield not just as a place of conflict, but as a canvas for true genius.